Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. The time when I'm speaking is in the afternoon, but I don't know when the session will be presented. I'm here to tell you a few things about something new in Salesforce. You might be curious why we are saying farewell to Process Builder. I think after the session you will know it. And thank you everyone for joining the session, for taking the time. Thank you our sponsors for enabling us to make this event. And thank you the London Calling team for taking the organization effort. So here am I. My name is Pawel Dobrzynski. I'm living in Poland. I am calling myself Salesforce freak because I'm really keen about what's going on with Salesforce. And one of the topics that I'm most interested in Salesforce are flows. So here is why I'm here. So who are you? You might expect to see an agenda, to see what you are going to see in that presentation. Instead, I'm going to ask, who are you? And tell for whom we are presenting this session. So you might recognize yourself here on the picture. Are you a senior developer who can do everything with Apex? Or perhaps you are an experienced Salesforce administrator who knows everything about Process Builder, but is quite afraid about flows because he thinks it's too complicated. Or maybe you are a very experienced Salesforce guy like Bruce, who knows everything about process automation, knows everything about flows, but doesn't have time to watch 3 times a year what new happened to Salesforce. So whoever are you on that picture, this session is for you. And I have a ask for you. If you can just drop me a note in the chatter, if you recognize yourself, just put a name, whether you are Steve or Jake or Jane or Emily, or if you don't recognize yourself and by chance you are listening to that session, I would like also to see what is your experience and what is your background. So let's crack on. The first, what I'm trying to give you a brief of the overview of the Salesforce automation. And in fact, if you see, it's more a history of Process Builder. And we go back to winter 15, which is the year 2014, when the Process Builder has been launched. What happened before? Before we had obviously Apex, we had workflow rules, and surprisingly, we had flows. So in winter 19, there was a new tool introduced called Process Builder that made a kind of a revolution in how you do the automation in Salesforce in declarative way. So along the next years and next releases, you can see many changes coming to Process Builder. And at first, it was really hard to use. You couldn't make any versions. You couldn't create. You couldn't copy the flow. You have to start from scratch again. You couldn't reorder the conditions. So if you wanted to have another criteria before what you actually had, you had to start the flow again. So it was hard at the beginning, but with the next releases and next, you could see improvements to Process Builder. So you can clone it, you can reorder the criteria, you can decide what happens after each criteria, whether you're going to end your process or you want to go further, and so on and so on. And you might also see that between 2018 and 2020, not very much happened here that can indicate that the process builder, the tool, was already kind of mature. So let's now take a quick look of what these process automation tools are. So historically, the first one, workflow rules, very simple, and it's basically a single if-then statement. So if you had more conditions, you created more workflow rules. And inside the condition, you could run several actions. Then process builder is basically a set of workflow rules. So it's multiple if-then statements. So you start with your entry criteria, which is either for the record is created or the record is updated. And then you have condition one. If that's true, then you can run actions. After you finish, you can evaluate the next criteria, or you can stop, and so on and so on. And a part of that, we had visual flows, which is very flexible. It gives you variety of actions, much more than process builder. Very flexible logic, much more flexible than process builder, and also database operations. So as you can see, process builder, as you can see, visual workflow gives you a lot of flexibility, but it also scared people because some people thought it was too complicated. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to convince you that this is not the truth. And with all that automation tools, people, and also myself, we asked the question, which automation tool should I use? Because as you can see, you can achieve the same things using workflow rules or process builder. So should you use workflow rules, or maybe completely do the process builder, or maybe you should use flows? And if you Google, actually you get the answer. And for years, Salesforce has been saying, we recommend starting with process builder. And then if you can't do in process builder what you want to do, then look to flows. Is it all that true? So 2020 has changed everything. And I'm not talking only about the fact that I couldn't come to London 2020 because it was turned into virtual event. I'm talking about another event when I was going to talk about process builder, and apparently I realized that what I'm going to speak is not valid anymore. Why? Because Spring 20 brought a completely new set of features called record-triggered flows. And I could not emphasize, I could not say it more. I think it's kind of the same revolution as we had 5 years ago with Process Builder. Now, the record-triggered flows changed the way we are going to think about process automation. So what exactly are these record-triggered flows? To understand what the flows are about, we need to think about order of execution. So here on that slide, I put all the actions that are being executed when the record is updated. And they are categorized in certain categories. I tried to make it really visual, easy to understand and to memorize. So if after the session you want to grab that slide and copy or print it out and use it for learning, I will be delighted. So I won't be talking about everything, but let's just speak about the main categories. So we start with the initialization of the record, and some system validations happen. Then we go to step number 4. And by the way, the steps are being numbered exactly as in Salesforce documentation on the page that you can see in the bottom. So then we go to triggers. And this is a set of triggers called before triggers. Then we have validations, also validation rules in step 5 and 6. Then in step 8, we have after triggers. And then in the step 9 to 16, we have all the declarative process automations. So we have assignment rules, workflow rules, escalation rules, process builder, entitlements, etc., etc. And then when we have all of that, we have roll-up summaries and some post-commit logic. As you can see in the step number 7, Salesforce saves to database the current state of the record, but it doesn't commit it. So that's why the triggers are called before triggers and after triggers, because they are before save and after save. So what Spring 20 brought us are before save flows. And before save flows happen before triggers. And later in summer 20, Salesforce brought us after save flows. And after save flows happen virtually after everything. So it's quite a good setup to have these two kinds of declarative tools that you can run either before or after all other automations, including Apex. So let's now move to an example. Let's say we want to populate case reason on a case with a default value other. So pretty simple. You can achieve it with workflow rule. You can achieve it with process builder. But now I'm showing you how you can achieve this with record triggered flow. So let's now move to our Salesforce, and here we have the system. When we create a new case, we see that the case reason is blank, and we want to make an automation that if it's left blank, then it's automatically set to other. Pretty easy. Let's see how we can do it. So we go to flows, set up flows, create new flow. And now you can get a bit scared because you see a screen with many options. So what we are going to choose is record triggered flows. We click next. Now we have options to choose either freeform or auto layout. I choose the freeform. And here are our flows. So this is the record triggered flow. And when I click on it, I have a choice. So I run the trigger when the record is created or updated, or when the record is deleted. So this is something that's new and something that you cannot achieve in Process Builder. And when are you going to run the flow? Before the record is saved or after the record is saved? So I'm choosing the first option. When I click done, what I see is a very short list on the left. And that's actually good because I don't have to worry about too many options. So I'm starting with choosing my object on which I run that automation. I use case. You can see that as you start typing, you get a prompt, and then you can define the conditions when actually that flow is being launched. So obviously you can set every time, but I'm using conditions. So I want to say when the case reason is blank. And you see that Salesforce prompts you with the right answers. If you don't remember the answer, you can just type typing and you have your answer here. So when the case reason is null, is true, which is, it means blank, then we start this record. So what are we going to do? We want to set this case reason to other. So we use a block called assignment. Pretty easy. You need to give a name. And here is the most important thing. When you click on the left-hand side, you see a record. So this is actually the record that is being causing the flow to start. So I click on it, and then I see list of fields. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to update case reason. Click on it, equals, and I see all my pick list values. So I select other, done. I need to save it. So I call it case before create. Don't bother about the API name. And I need to connect the two elements. And basically that's it. Save it. Activate. And test it. So I'm going to create a new case. Some flow. The rest I'm leaving everything. I'm leaving blank basically. So when I save it, I see my case, and I see that the case reason has been actually set to other. Yes, so my flow is working. So let's say a few things about the before say flows. And by the way, if you never done flows before, this is your first flow. Pretty easy, isn't it? So the key facts, yeah, it runs before the record is saved, and even before triggers. There is no save procedure. So if you recall what we did, we just did an assignment. We didn't do any update records, nothing. We just assigned the value. If there is no save procedure, there is also no recurrence. And you need to remember that the record variable refers to the record that actually started the flow. And the typical use case is same record update. So, and one more thing, these flows are much more faster than process builder. Let's take a look at this. So here we have a picture done from a chart from some measures that Salesforce did on different automation tools. And on the left-hand side, we can see Apex, which are very fast. I couldn't say more. On the right-hand side, we see Process Builder, which is very slow. And the second to the left are before save flows. So they are obviously not as fast as Apex, but they are much faster than workflow rules. They are much faster than Process Builder. And also another observation from Salesforce. In April 2020, they counted all the process automations in all Salesforce instances they have. They get the number of 150 billion actions performed during the month by workflow, process builder, and flow. And apparently, 2/3 100 billion actions were same record updates. So something I shown before. So pretty impressive, isn't it? So here is your takeaway number one. Stop putting same record field updates into workflow rules and process builder. I repeat this. Stop using workflow rules and process builder for the same record field updates. Instead, start using before save flow. Let's look another example. Let's say we want to populate account on a case. So we create a case, we selected contact for that case, but we leave account blank. And obviously the account can be taken from the contact. So the process automation could update this field on a case for us. How can we do this? So with workflow rule, you can't, because workflows cannot update lookup fields. So let's forget about workflow rules. You can do it in process builder, and you can do it in record triggered flow. So nothing new. But now we have use case 3. And it's similar, but instead of populating account, we say, let's populate a contact. And it's not that very straightforward as in the previous case, because we can have multiple contacts on an account. And how do we select the right one? Yeah. So the requirement says one contact is marked as a primary. So I want this contact to be populated on a case. So can you achieve this with process builder? Probably not, because in process builder, you don't have a way to browse through records and select one of those records. So what people would actually do, they could create a lookup on the account record to set the primary account in there, but this is the workaround. So I show you how easy is this in record triggered flow. So let's go to our demo again. So let's go to our process automations. And remember, we already created one flow for the updating case reason, but I don't bother with that, and I just create another flow. I create another flow for the same object. And I say the account condition. So when the account ID is blank, true, or contact is blank, yeah, and I want to have it or, not and. So these are my conditions. If either of those or both are blank, start the flow. And again, I start with the assignment. But before I do the assignment, I need to make a decision. So I want to check whether I have contact defined or I have account defined. Or maybe I call it as account or contact. And in my first outcome that I call has contact, let's say, now I need to start with record, yeah, the record that started my flow. So has contact, so contact ID is null. And now I need to call it false because set, and record account ID is null, true. And I create another outcome as account no contact. And I start again with record ID is not quite some of the writing, but we see that we will finish this soon. And the contact ID is null. So I have the two possible outcomes of my decision, and maybe it's wise to save that flow, and I use that naming convention. I call it case before update. Save it, and we only need to change. We say when a record is created. So we want to do it when the record is created and before the record is saved. So here we have. So we have our decision, and then depending on the decisions, we do the two assignments. So if we have contact, we don't have account, we set the account. So record account ID equals record, and now from record we need to go to contact. And before Spring 20, that was not possible to go directly from there, but from Spring 21, it's possible to reference the related records. So I go from record to contact, to related contact, and then I take the account from the contact and assign it to the case account. And I've done it. So I need to make a selection. So we have contact, no account. So this is the choice that we are using. And this is pretty easy. But what we do if we have the account, but we don't have contact? So we need to find our primary contact. And for that reason, we are using the only database operation that we have, which is get records. And we are looking for contact records that meet the following criteria. So the ID, account ID of that case should be our account ID. So we say record, because we have set the account on the case, and primary, the checkbox is primary contact, should be true. And we say we only find the first record, and we automatically store all fields and that means that we don't need to do anything. So I make the connection, so has account, no contact. And now I need to do my assignment. So I need to set contact. So my flow record ID equals, and now I need to find the record that I already found. So I look on the list, and this is the element that I created previously, get contact from primary. And from this, I select just the contact ID. And I make the connection, save it, and activate. So if you look at this element, and I said that there are some of the options. If you are more advanced with flows, you can use these other options. Basically, they do the same, but they give you more flexibility how you can refer to the records. If you are new to flows, just do what Salesforce sets as the default. So let's see how it works. So let's say I want to create a new case. And I select the contact. So I say John Davis from Express Logistics and Transport. Save it. And what happens? So we see that the case reason has been automatically set to other. And we have contact name, John Davis, and account name has been populated automatically. So let's do the harder stuff. So we create new case. And we select the account. Say I select United Oil and Gas. See what happens. I have the account name, which I populated, and I have the contact name, which has been populated by workflow. And actually, Lauren is the primary contact of that account. As you can see, Lauren is the primary contact. So we see that before say flows can do something that Process Builder can't do. Okay, so we've been talking about before say flows. Let's say we want to have a more complex use case. So we want to have the verification request cases. And for those verification request cases, we want to have the field account verification status, which is actually copied from the account. And when the case status is changed to working, the verification status should change to pending, and this change should be reflected on both case and related account. So how we do it? Again, if we think about our setting the verification case on case, that's pretty easy. And I will use my flow that I already created. I create new version of it. And I just create another assignment. Because in either or, we have the account set. So we say set verification status. And you can see that in this case, I'm just using one of my existing flows. So the record non-verification status equals record. I need to go to account, and from the account, I take the verification status. Make the connections. Pretty easy, save, and activate. But now I want to have something that I want to update a related record. So I want to make a change on a case, but when something changes on a case, I want to update related account, and I can't do it in before save flow. So for that reason, I'm using after save flow. So again, we select case, select the entry criteria. So we say that the case reason equals verification request, and the verification status equals pending. Then I want to update my account, but I want to do it only when it first changes to pending. So actually, I'm taking this condition off here. So I click done it. A record, and it should be a record is updated, and after the record is saved. And then I make my decision. Course pending, and here I select only the record that triggered the flow. So only if the record that triggered the flow is updated to meet the conditions. So this is something what we had in Process Builder. So when it for the first time changes to pending, then the action will happen. So I make the connection, and now I want to update record. And now I'm going to update account. On account. So the account ID should be equal to the ID of account of our case. So we go to record account ID. Basically, it's it. So what we want to say, verification status, and we select our record on verification status. So we basically copy the value from case to the account. Verification to pending, done, save it. Activate. And we need to do one more thing. We said that when I change the case status to working, I want to have the change of the verification status. So actually, I create this in another new flow, and it will be, again, the before save flow. And I say, before the record is saved, a record is updated, done. And we select case. And this happens only for the verification case. So case reason equals verification. And when status is changed to working. And we do it only when the record is updated to meet the requirements. So I click it yes. What I need to do is I set verification status, and I'm changing this to pending. I connect it, save it. And activate. And so what you see is that I created several flows to do the same. And actually what I'm trying to say is that it is not wrong. So let's take the United Gas with the verification status expired. And we create a new case for it just to test it, that everything is working properly. So that the type needs to be verification, case reason verification request, and we select the account, United Oil and Gas Corporation, save it, and actually let's see what we have here. Let me close those other cases that we don't need. So we have the case. Obviously, all the automations that we did in the previous steps worked. Now we have account verification status to expire, so that was actually copied from the account. And now when I'm changing the status to working, let's see what happens. So basically the account verification status changed to pending. So this is what we did in our before save flow. And if we open our account, we see that the verification status also has been changed to pending, and that happened in our after save flow. Okay, so what we actually did. So we have our second, we used our second part of the tool called after save flows. And similarly to before save flows, after save flows happen after the record is saved. And it's important to remember that there are two saves. One is save no commit, this is step 7, and one is save and commit, this is the very last one. So the after save means after the first save, the no commit. But it is after all triggers, and it happens after all process automations. And unlike process builder, after save flow doesn't cause the recurrence. So it doesn't, the record doesn't go again through the save procedure. So it's much easier then. And the intention is replace process builder flows. Really. So I say hello to flows because you know, they are more powerful. They have nice performance, and they can do what process builder can do, but they do it faster and better. So let's crack on. Here is the takeaway number 2. Whenever possible, start implementing use case in after save flow rather than in process builder and workflow, except for the record field, the same record field updates, for which we remember the takeaway one, which is use before save flows. And this is actually what I did. And here is my takeaway number 3. And actually, this is also a Salesforce recommendation. Stop putting everything into single flow. So you might remember that with Process Builder, that was that was a rule like use one process builder per object. And with flow, it's not necessarily the truth, because multiple flows on one object are fine unless we don't care about the order of actions. So if you remember the case when I wanted to take something from the account on a case, so I need to have my account set. Yes, so I need to do it in the flow in which I actually set the account. But if I want a change that when I'm moving to the status to working, I want to make a change to of the account verification status, then it's a completely independent change, and I can do it in a separate flow. So let's take a closer look at this. So on one hand, we have workflow rules, and workflows have their own entry criteria. So if you have 10 workflow rules, but only one meets the criteria, that workflow is selected. If 3 of them meet some different criteria, then only those 3 workflows will be started. On the other hand, we have Process Builder, and the entry criteria on the Process Builder are very simplistic. So it's either for create or create and update. So if you want to check the conditions, the criteria that for which you have your nodes in your decision elements in the Process Builder, you basically need to start the Process Builder, or the system needs to start the Process Builder and evaluate the criteria one by one. So if you have 10 Process Builders with 2 criteria in each, Salesforce needs to start and load to the database all of those 10 Process Builders just to find the criteria that actually needs to be taken into consideration. And record triggered flow is something in between. So you have your entry criteria, and if you have 5 flows and only 2 of them meet the criteria, only the 2 flows will be loaded to the memory, and only the 2 flows will be executed. So that way, even if you have multiple flows, you don't cause the system to run slow. And in addition to that, unlike with workflow rules, you have decision elements inside the flow itself. And we had a simple cases with two exits from the decision elements. But basically, there is nothing wrong having more than 2. So again, let me repeat this. You can have multiple flows, and this is absolutely fine. And you need to find the right balance between single or multiple flows, or what you put to which flows. You need to use a good naming convention for it. There's a lot of the undefined space that gives you some flexibility, and there is no one answer to that. So then we have another use case when we say, if the account is set to verified, the verification status should expire after 1 year. So these are scheduled actions that we know from workflow rules, we know from process builder, and we also have this possibility in our record triggered flows. So this happens in the after save flows, and now we do it for the account. Specify the conditions that the verification status is verified. Pretty easy. Only when the flow meets the following conditions. So it's only when it changed to verified. It doesn't start every time I edit the record. And now I can add the scheduled paths. So basically, I used first the assignment element. So I say record verification status should change to expired. And now what I'm using these scheduled paths. So I add the path and I say after 1 year. And I use the time when the account is updated. And I'm adding 365 days. I have options of days or hours. It's similar to what we have in workflows or process builder, and that's it. So this is my path. So I can either use the when I drag the line, I can have an option. So either run immediately. So this is what we basically did so far, or I say after 1 year to do this. Save it, and we call it account after save. Save, and we need to activate. So let's take another account, maybe Berlin Textiles, and let's just do it simple without the case, but it would work with the case. So I say the account status is verified. I save it, and nothing happens. But that's not the truth, because if we go to time-based workflow and we do search, we see our rule is here. So it's going to happen in the year on 2022. This is actually the schedule date. And what happens if I change the entry criteria? So I say it was rejected for some reasons. My scheduled flow will be deleted. So I refresh the page, and there is no flow in it. Yes. So when the record criteria is not valid anymore, the scheduled paths are deleted. So here are the recommended use cases. And if you have time after the session to look to this table, I really encourage you to take a closer look. So basically, for same record updates, we use before save flow. So it calls before save flow trigger on the left-hand side, low code, and we have Apex on the right-hand side. And for cross-object operations, we have after-safe triggers. Some other actions still require Apex or combination of after-safe flow and Apex. And this is the takeaway number 4, that for some operations, especially if you have high performance requirements, or you need to use sophisticated logic, use Apex. And this is absolutely correct. So important thing to know is that it's not for granted now. As you can see, the tool is constantly evolving, and there were a bunch of new features delivered in 2 recent releases. And there are some other features that you may recall from Process Builder, like is changed or is new, what you want to use, and this is coming soon. You will also see the possibility to sending outbound messages, and it's also going to come. And now we have one interesting feature, and again, something that we can't achieve with Process Builder, and this is actually possible with trigger flows, with record triggered flows. And this is another argument for using flows over the Process Builder. So we have exactly the same requirement with the verification case, but here is the tip. Now, let's do it for another account, Express Logistics and Transport. So I go to my demo and I create a new case. For Express Logistics and Transport, I don't need to select contact, and the case reason is verification request. Save it. So our case is created. So far, so good. The account verification status is required. We start working on that case. So I change this as my current status. Bump. You like it? I think if you work with Process Builder, you often see it. Yeah, and I give you a hint what it says. It says that there is a validation rule that actually prevents the account from being saved. So if we go directly to this account and we try to edit and save, we see what is the validation rule. It says that the account must have the type defined, but actually we didn't. So our process flow failed because it couldn't update the record, and we had this nice error message that I bet nobody likes. But nothing is lost, because we have our record triggered flows, and we have some flexibility inside this. So let's locate our flow, and you see we have quite many of those. But unlike with Process Builders, we can create list views. So I say all account related triggers, and this is our case after update account verification. So actually, this is the case that caused the problem. It is not that one. Let's try to find the record that we did today. So it was case after save update verification status. That was that one. So we have our update, and I will do one more thing. So we will use an action to handle the error. And if you are very familiar with flows, you know about this fault actions. So let's create an action, post to chatter. And we can use here flow fault message. We add some nice text. And we want to post this on our record. Done it. So what I need to do, I need to do a trick. I need to copy. I use that that element because I want to go from that record, and when I drag, it's like a normal flow, but when I drag it again, I have the fault message. And actually, I can delete this because I don't need this anymore. And I do one more thing. I update my case. So I'm using my case, and I do one assignment in between. So on my case, I have a field called account sync status, which I will set to failed. And let's reorganize this a bit on our flow. So we use this, then from this we go to our assignment, and then we update our case again. Save as new version. Activate. And let's do our exercise again. So I'm closing these cases. I create a new case. Again for express transport. Case origin. Type verification request. Save it. I go to my case. I'm changing to working. And remember, previously, when I did this, I've got the error message. But actually, what happens now, it went successfully, but I have that the change on a case happened. The change on an account didn't. So if I open that account, it's still the status is expired. And this is what I set on my case, account sync status, and it's now set to failed. And if I go to my chatter post, I see my message. So it's a nice way of handling errors. Obviously, not as flexible as with Apex triggers, where you can display an alert, but at least this is kind of a workaround, and you can prevent your flows, your automations from showing this nasty error messages. And basically that's all I wanted to tell you today. Here are some useful resources that you can look at. So I urge you, if you are really keen on understanding all the internals, all the nitty-gritties, there is a nice page called Salesforce Architects. It's actually a site, and there is a very long document, but quite useful, about the record-triggered automation. You can also go to the unofficial.com, and you can read an article about how you can convert your process builder to flows. In case you really wanted to say bye-bye to process builder and convert everything to flows. Maybe it's no need to, but when you have new automations, I think you should start with doing this with flows. And now, as we are moving to the end of the session, and we have the same question that I posted before, and now we have even more choices. So we don't have process builder and workflow and triggers, but we also have before say flows and after say flows, and we have flows and the number of options. So, and now if you are asking which automation tool should you use, the answer is flow is the future. And with all that, I would like to thank you. Again, warm thank you to our sponsors for making this happen. And warm thank you to our London Calling team, to Amanda, to Luis, and all others that I didn't name, for making this great event for you.